Hello, math learners, and welcome to Unit 6, which is all about expressions and equations. And by the end, hopefully, you will have some understanding that mathematical situations can be represented and solved algebraically. Now, don't freak out if you don't know what a mathematical situation or even the word algebraically means. We're going to uncover those through our unit. And together we'll learn what they mean. So we're going to get started on lesson 6.1 right now. So today's lesson 6.1 is all about tape diagrams and expressions. And I hear lots of you going, yes, tape diagrams are back. That's right, you guys. They are back, and we are going to be using them a lot today. They're going to help us understand what an algebraic expression is. Today's specific objective that you can represent expressions with tape diagrams, so you will be expected to use them, and that you can use these diagrams to solve expressions which include a variable. Now, again, don't worry if you don't understand what these words mean. All right, by the end of the lesson, hopefully you will have a better understanding of that. So your first activity is a thinking activity, like always, and I'd like you to take a look at both of these tape diagrams, the green one and the blue one. I'd like you to think to yourself, what do you notice that's the same about them, and what do you notice that's different? Pause the video and write down some of your thoughts right now. Okay, so now I'd like you to upload those thoughts to Google Classroom so I can see them. But hopefully maybe you noticed that they both have a 12, for example. The totals are both 12. Maybe you notice that they both include an X. Maybe you notice that they both somehow or another include a 4. I can see a 4 right here, for example. And I can see 4 different parts here. So make sure you've uploaded what your thoughts are to Google Classroom. So the next thing I'd like you to think of is, using these diagrams, what equation can you see? What equation are they representing? Now, something I'd like you to notice is that the x, all right? The x is what's called a variable. Remember, we've seen some of these in class before. The x means it represents a number, all right? And that's what the difference between arithmetic, which we've been doing before, and algebra is. Algebra and solving things algebraically, there's going to be something that's unknown. In these cases, the x is the unknown, and so it's a variable, all right? And x, every time you see x, it will mean something different. Your job is to try to find what that x represents. So using these diagrams, I'd like you to write an equation. Remember, an equation has to have an equal sign. And write down an equation, but don't change the letter x. Keep the letter x. Okay, so taking a look at the green one first, let's take a look at this one. What you should have written down is something like this, that 4 plus x will equal 12, or 12 minus x equals 4, or even that 12 minus 4 could equal x. X is equal to 12 minus 4, or x plus 4 equals 12. What do you notice here? What I see is that the x could be on either side of the equation, or on either side of the equal sign, and that's okay. Right? It doesn't matter which side of the equal sign the x is on, because they both mean the same thing. Okay, so taking a look at the blue one, for example, I can see 4 x's. Whoops, let me put that into blue. I can see 4 x's that are going to add together to give 12. So 12 is the same as x plus x plus x plus x. Another way of writing that would be 4 x's, okay? Or that x is the same as 12 divided by 4 equal parts. Okay, copy down or note down whichever equations here you didn't get. Okay, the next part of the warm-up activity is take a look at each of these equations and draw a diagram to represent it. So you need to think. Okay, you are going to need to use a tape diagram here. And how would you represent this? So the total is going to be 18, and it's the same as 3 times y, or 3 groups of y. How might that look as a tape diagram? Press pause and try that one now. Okay, so your diagram should look something like mine. All right, I can see here that I have my total of 18. is here. I have my variable of y, and 18 is the same or is equal to or equals 3 groups of y. And I can see that in my diagram here. I have 18 equal to 3 groups of y. Now, it's really important here that you understand that these boxes here, it doesn't matter how big they are, but if they're all equal to y, which means they are all the same value, they should all be the same size. All right, make sure your y's, if you're representing a variable as an equal digit or an equal value, then it must be the same size. So you can see that my boxes that represent y are the same size. Okay, so taking a look at the green one. Now I would like you to try that. 18 equals x take away 3. What would that look like as a tape diagram? Press pause and try. Okay, so your tape diagram should look something like mine. And if we take a look closely, my equation was 18 equals or is the same as x minus 3. So I have my 18. X, I know, is going to be bigger than 18 because 18 is the x when 3 is being taken away. So that means that the 18 is going to be greater than x. So my 3 is here. And I can see here that 18 is the same as x take away 3. Here's my x. If I take this away, I will be left with 18. All right, let's take a look at the third example. 18 equals x divided by 3. Okay, so what would that look like as a tape diagram? Pause and try. So hopefully your tape diagram looks similar to mine. I can see that 18 is the same as x divided by 3. I can see 3 equal parts here. 1, 2, 3. So my x divided by 3 parts, one of those parts is 18, right? Which means that every one of my parts is 18. And 3 of those are going to make x. The last one I'd like you to take a look at, team, is 18 equals 3 plus x. How would you draw that as a tape diagram? Pause and try. So hopefully your tape diagram looks similar to mine. I have my total here of 18, and it's the same as x plus 3. All right, how did you go? Write down a question for me that you have after these activities. What's confusing for you right now? Write it down and post it. Okay, so the last thing we need to do, learners, is to determine the value of each variable. Now remember, the variable can change depending on the equation. Not all x's are going to be the same. If they're in the same equation, then they will have the same value. But our x's and y's here are in different equations, so they can have different values. And in fact, hopefully you can see how they might already have a different value here. So what I'd like you to try is to determine the value of y. What does y equal? Well, in the first one, 18 is equal to 3 groups of y. So I can see that each y needs to be the same value here. What value can we replace y with that will make this equation true? Press pause and try. So I can see here that I have 18 as a total, and it's divided into 3 equal groups. And so 18 divided by 3 must mean that y is equal to 6. Okay, let's take a look at the second one here. 18 is equal to x minus 3. Our job is to determine the value of x. Well, by looking at this tape diagram, I can see that x is greater than 18. It's also greater than 3. And I can notice that x is going to be 18 plus 3. 18 and 3 together are going to make x. So the value of x here is 21. Taking a look at the third one, I have a total of x. So again, my total is a variable. It's an unknown right now. It's divided into 3 equal groups, but this time I know the value of each group. Right? Each group is worth 18. And together, those 3 groups are going to add up to make x, or multiply together to make x. So 3 groups of 18, when I add or multiply that together, my x is equal to 54. And the last one, again, 18 is my total. X is unknown here, but 18 is going to be the same as x plus 3. So using my diagram, I'm going to look and observe closely and think, well, what is x? X is going to be less than 18. It's going to be 3 less than 18. So x is going to be 15. What I'd like you to do now is pause and have a little reflection. What's a question that you have after this warm-up, right? After your introduction to expressions, equations, and tape diagrams. What's confusing you right now? What's something that you need to go back and maybe look at again? Make sure you write that down on your page and then post it to Google Classroom.